Dharma greetings. My name is Rahula, and I'm one of Bhante Candana's students. And just before you get to listen to one of his amazing discourses, I just wanted to share with you that Bhante is a wandering monk. So he has no home, and he purely relies on donations of dana by followers and by the community to survive, just for the bare essentials. So if you feel of value, please feel free to share after the video and enjoy. Thank you.
Well, we don't like to waste an opportunity with speaking. Lord Buddha says how when noble disciples get together, especially, well, let's just say, he would be talking to the bhikkhus. When bhikkhus come together, when monastics come together, there's two types of conversing or conversation that could take place that would be appropriate for such individuals to have. One, either to speak on the Dhamma, to discuss the Dhamma basically, to explore what does this mean in the context of the Dhamma, in the context of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, in the context of the Dhamma and Vinaya. That's option one. Option two is maintaining silence, staying quiet. On first hearing this or reading this, one would understandably think about, in reference to the second option, they would think that it is, well, obviously it's about the not moving of the lips part, to keep silent. Yes, that's sure, yes. But that's not as important as maintaining silence in the mind. Maintaining quietude in the mind. You see, every time we are engaging in thinking, entertaining a thought, a perception, a concept, planning something, pondering something, in essence, this is a reference to those two factors that one has to overcome in order for them to enter into and dwell within the second jhana, which is a deep state of mind, of mental quietude, mental rest. These two things stop. And that's why, or that's how a person enters into the second jhana. And these two things are vitakka vichara, which I just mentioned, thinking and pondering. Sometimes they're referred to as subvocal speech. The lips aren't moving, but everything else is moving inside. There's heat, there's agitation, there is movement, there's distractibility, there is distraction, there is, in essence, restlessness, which is one of the key hindrances, nivarana, that one must overcome in order for that person to attain Nibbana. So every moment of distraction means you are not with the Dhamma during that moment. Every moment you have a concept while you're in meditation, especially, you're no longer with the Dhamma. Every time you have a fear arising, or worrisome thought showing up, a feeling that's stealing your attention away from your focus on the meditation object, whatever that might be for you, given by your teacher. Every moment you have a concept, a memory. No matter what kind of a memory, you might be remembering a scene from somewhere that is related, let's say, to the Dhamma. Yes, it's loftier than other memories or thoughts. Yes, it might even be inspiring. It might be moving you to come back to the Dhamma, but there needs to be the acknowledgement, realization that, hey, I'm no longer practicing. At that moment, at that instance, you have to be there. So, this was an opportunity that Lord Buddha was giving to the bhikkhus. Because every time we're moving our lips, we are unloading. We are releasing. We are unleashing. And if it's not Dhamma, we are unleashing delusion into an already deluded world. How much of a change will come about if I say this word, if I say this sentence, if I speak about the weather, if I ask this person a question, and when push comes to shove and I'm really pushed to a corner and asked, interrogated as to whether I believe truly, deeply, that what I just said was absolutely 100% necessary, chances are, more often than not, people are going to say, well, actually it wasn't that necessary. Well, what were you doing? I was simply filling up the gaps, killing time, shooting the breeze. These are ways to perpetuate delusion. World situations, world scenarios, global things, global issues, the weather, talk about other people, talk about friends, colleagues, this so-and-so has done this, do you know that? Or if I were them, I would have not done this, or all this. How pertinent is it to you at this moment in time? How much of a necessity does this thing present for you that you really have to unleash delusion? So Lord Buddha was saying, if it's not talk on the Dhamma, then it is delusion, in essence. For that, we have certain mechanism that was put in place, where we have a certain formula, a structure, which makes things so much easier for us to live this life and to really apply our freedom in choosing whether to speak or not to. And here you can also add, attached to that, speaking in the mind as well, which is even more important. But the formula I'm referring to is the taking of precepts, which in Buddhism it's called sila, taking of the precepts. It is a training, sikkhapadang, it's a path of training, a way of training yourself to abstain from things that will not be conducive to your progress, to your happiness. When we say progress, we are also talking about, essentially it means also your own happiness and welfare and well-being. And that's another word for kusala, or wholesome, or good merit-making action. It could be in the form of a thought, it could be in the form of a bodily action, and especially it could be in the form of speech, spoken words. There's several aspects. In fact, there's 4 divisions to the precept that is dedicated to just covering the verbal action part. Every day, a lay Buddhist takes 5 precepts. The 4th of these is the one pertaining to speech. Now, Lord Buddha also divided that into 4, so it has subdivisions. It's broken down into 4. One is, of course, not to speak falsehood. So you are training yourself to avoid saying, speaking anything that is untrue or lies. In our culture today, people avoid using the word lie to, in our efforts to mangle the language. We think that by changing the words, the action is going to change somehow. And that's never the case. You cannot sugarcoat lies, because that would be lying to cover up another lie, because sugarcoating, again, is a lie when you look at things from a Buddhist perspective. The second one is not to use any language that breaks people apart. Gossiping, for example, slandering. And then there's the third aspect, which has to do with harsh speech, destructive words, hurtful words, words that don't bring life to the conversation. In fact, it depletes life, it hurts, it harms. There's that saying that the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, what is the pen? What is the pen doing? It's writing. What is it writing? Words. Words that manifest in the form of what? In the form of speech. Even when the person is reading it, they are reading the words in their head even, quietly, but it's being read, spoken in the mind, which is also spoken sooner or later, loudly, verbally. And what is spoken is sooner than later heard by someone. And such words, wherever they land, they burn. So that's another training that we have to do, pertaining to speech. And then there's the 4th one, which has to do with idle chatter. It's like sampapalapa, it's called. It's even like papapapapap, You can almost tell even if you don't know Pali. I think it was Bhante Gunaratna, he used that reference. He said, it's like blah, 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 blah. Non-stop talking. Useless, frivolous speech. Which sooner or later takes us back to the first aspect of wrong speech, which is lying. You have to fill up the gaps, Well, let me tweak this a little bit. Let me add a little bit more pizzazz to this. Let me add a little bit more nuances to this. Colorize this word. Yeah, sure, no one's going to notice I exaggerated this a little bit. And now you are doing more harm than just filling up the gaps. So these are some of the things that we can think about pertaining to speech. But the best kind of speech is not to have any speech. Now, of course, we live in society, we need to communicate. Lord Buddha didn't say go on a silent retreat, okay? Which has become very popular, but most people have no clue what it is. They talk about silent retreat. It's the in thing, nowadays. If you meditate, the first question that people ask, oh, you went on one of those silent retreats? There's a purpose. Again, the silence that is being referred to is the silence in the mind. That is the important part. Now that, in fact, is called noble silence. Noble silence. So, please be mindful that when there is noise in the mind, that means there's restlessness in the mind, agitation in the mind, distractions in the mind. When you have any of these, then it means the Dhamma doesn't have a room for it to stay with you. Your heart or mind is too occupied to house the Dhamma. The Dhamma needs room. It needs quiet. It needs space. It needs love. It needs trust. It needs welcoming attitude from you. It needs playfulness. It needs kindness. And silence does provide that. Okay?